Hi, Burn Nation. I'm so excited to invite you to join us on March 7th at Burn Bootcamp headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina, to learn more about changing lives in your community by owning your own Burn Bootcamp location. You will meet myself, Devin, Trisha Pena, and Matt Morris, also hosts of this podcast, and more of our amazing leadership team. So be sure to click the link in the podcast description to register now. We can't wait to meet you. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Burn Bootcamp podcast. It's your host, Morgan Kline, and we're talking about turning setbacks into stepping stones. So listen, this is my life. I feel that with Burn Bootcamp and even just as a mom, I continue to have setbacks in my life, and I can think of them as failures. I can think of myself as a failure, or, I can kind of just give up, but I choose to use all of those hardships and all of those lessons as stepping stones into, okay, how can I make sure then to do it better next time? And so I just want to talk a little bit about that. I'm going to give you guys some examples of times that I have felt like I've been really set back, and I'll get super vulnerable. I'm going to give some business examples. But now if I get to look back, it was hard, but I'm going to use all of those lessons now as stepping stones to make sure that I'm doing things differently in the future. And I think that that's the most valuable thing, is if you take your failures and you just move on and you don't really dig deep and take accountability to say, what did I do here that I could have done differently? Like, if you take true self-reflection to say, how do I make sure that this does not happen to me again? Then you're going to continue to fail in that same way. And I personally, I've failed in the same ways before. Like, I am no perfect angel here, but when I fail in the same way, it hurts deeper. Like, it cuts deeper and it hurts more, because it means that I didn't truly self-reflect and say, what happened here? Like, what happened in this setback? What was in my control? What it wasn't in my control? And those things that are in your control, like, let them be in your control next time, and like, stand your ground and make sure you're not going to do that same thing over and over again. So, the personal story that I want to share is certainly business related. And when I talk about what was in my control and not in my control, this situation that I'm going to talk about, there was a lot that was not in my control. And that's even harder. When you have a setback, it's hard when you're not in full control to either create the solution or, just make sure that failure turns into a success. And so I'm going to speak a little bit vague, because I don't, just for business purposes, I don't want to talk exactly about the ins and outs. But I had a vendor in Burn Bootcamp that produced a product for us that started to steal my money. Started to use the money that I was putting down for this product to be built and using it in other ways. And they would tell me the reason they couldn't produce my product was because there was out of stocks and there were shortages and there was things that, that were out of their control. Well, I started to believe them, right? So I was like, okay, I understand. I trusted. Like, I put full trust in this vendor, and I was like, okay, this sucks, but like, I get what you're saying. Well, this would happen over and over again. And it started to really impact, obviously, how I'm able to do business. It started to impact my franchise partners. It started to impact the members, because this product was off the shelves for a long time. And, there comes a point where you're patient with people, but then there comes a point where it's like, something doesn't feel right. And so I kept digging and kind of pushing and challenging this vendor of mine. And come to find out, they were using my money, like my deposits, on other things. And they weren't actually, procuring the ingredients or the resources that they needed to produce my product. And so there was a lot of setbacks in this lesson for me. Number one is I lost a ton of money. I lost trust in the people that trust me to run this business, right? There was a loss of trust there. There was just a personal feeling of failure of, wow, like, how did I let this happen? There was a lot of things in my mind that were like, okay, this has set us back as a company from a dollar amount, but also from a goodwill perspective. And that's really, really hard to handle, because again, there was a lot of things out of my control. I don't have the resources to just do what they were doing. That's why they're my vendor, right? And so I'm relying on somebody else to have integrity and tell me the truth and like do the right thing. And when they don't do that, that's a reflection of me to the people that rely on me, right? And so this was a setback for me. And again, I had a lot of moments of just frustration and doubt. And it's like, but I self-reflected and I was like, okay, I know a lot of this stuff was out of my control, but what was in my control? What is in my control to do it better next time, to make sure that I'm not in this same situation when I find other vendors, and I make sure that I'm protecting myself a little bit more. And so now I'm able to turn a failure and a setback and a really hard learning lesson into this stepping stone of how do I become a better negotiator when I'm working with vendors? How do I ask better questions? How do I make sure that there's checks and balances in place where they can't do this to me again? And so I could just, keep moving and do the same things. But if I don't self-reflect and take that lesson to say, yeah, it's not going to happen again, then, what is the point? What is the point? So, there's this common misconception that, a setback can sometimes mean it's this personal failure that you shouldn't do it ever again. And don't be scared. Like, don't be scared to go after something again, because I could just crumble and shut down and say, I'm just not going to offer this product anymore. We're not doing it. Like no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let somebody else's, actions like change how I feel about other vendors and other opportunities that can come my way to, make this business great and to be able to produce products for my franchise partners and members and do the things that I still want to do in this business. So what did I do? Like I said, I self-reflected. I'm still dealing with this today as I'm doing this podcast, which is why I'm going to be super vague about it. But, I now make sure that I'm asking different questions when I'm working with vendors. I'm making sure that my contracts look a little bit different to protect me. I'm making sure that my money is held in, a safer bank account where someone can't just spend it however they want. So I have learned so much I've had so many vendors that I've had to, obviously get rid of and find new, but this one cut really deep because it was a very expensive lesson. Like the amount of money that I've had to write off for this lesson is one that I don't ever want to feel that again. So I've taken a much, much, much deeper look at this. And I've consulted with other people. I have legal teams that now are helping me. And so I, again, am going to take control in the best way that I know how to take control. And that is to just educate myself, empower myself, and make sure that I am protecting myself in the future. And so if you are going through a setback, whether that's in business or whether that's, maybe it's in your fitness journey right now, maybe you've had an injury, maybe you have, let's go there. Let's say that maybe you've had an injury. That can feel super defeating, right? That can feel like, oh, I've been working really, really hard on something and boom, just like that. Like I've lost this progress. I've lost my motivation. I've just lost like what's in my control to go and do something about it. Because time is the only way to fix injuries, right? Time and therapy and rehab and maybe surgery. And then now you have to modify, like you have to learn to do things differently now if you have this setback in an injury. And so that doesn't mean you're a failure. That doesn't mean that you should stop working out. That doesn't mean you should stop taking care of your body and finding different ways to accomplish your goals, right? Same with me in business. It didn't stop me from going after to find a new way to produce this product that I know that I want to produce. And so you can crumble in it, or you can say, okay, now I'm going to fix the problem, right? I'm going to get through this injury, and then I'm going to learn how can I take care of my body more, or what are things that I need to do to make sure I don't re-injure myself. If you don't take the time to self-reflect and think about what you're going to do differently, the same things will continue to happen. In parenting, I have setbacks all the time. I'll just think of a small example even of like when I yell at my kids, let's just say, like when I yell at my kids, I always regret that. That's where the moments get the best of me at times when there's a lot going on and they're not listening to me and I've said things 5 times in a row. And the only reason they sometimes will listen to me is if I raise my voice. That doesn't ever feel good, right? It's not like I had a setback in that scenario, but also it gives me just a moment after I've done something that doesn't feel good, just reflect and say like, hey, how could I have done that differently? Like, how can I get their attention differently? Or let me actually have a conversation with my kids when we're all calmed down, and let's talk about that. Like, let's actually say, hey, how do we prevent mom from screaming again at you guys? Or, hey, why did mom get mad? Or how many times should I have to say things? Like it's a constant reflection. And I think that that's the message that I wanted to talk about is when you feel like you've set back and like feeling, good about yourself, good about your parenting, good about business and your job. And you're going to have these little things that kind of kick you back into reality of like, hey, it's not always sunshine and roses. That doesn't mean you're a failure. That means like, okay, I just got a little bit tougher skin. I just found a new strategy. I just learned a lesson that I'm going to do differently next time, and use that as a stepping stone to get better and better and better, because we're constantly evolving, right? The way that I parented last year is different than how I'm going to parent this year for many different reasons. The way that I led last year is different how I'm going to lead this year. Like I am constantly changing, evolving, learning new things, learning from failures. And the only way to truly take that into a success is to reflect and be super self-accountable for what you have control over. So that's my take on setbacks and stepping stones. Hope that helps you guys with whatever you're dealing with in your life, or maybe something that you will deal with. I hope you can save this podcast for those moments where you need to take a step back and really change that perspective. Use it as a stepping stone to just get better and do better. So thank you guys for listening. We're going to end like we always do. 2 claps on 2, 1, 2.